the fact that a newspaper as large as the LA Times would allow something like this to be printed, where they are calling out the fact that it's okay to mock and ridicule somebody who died of COVID if they didn't have the vaccine, kind of says where the quality of journalism is, doesn't it? It says it's in the toilet. You know, dear listeners, I'm going to go ahead and postulate something right now. I am going to postulate that what will destroy us faster than a virus or faster than an enemy or faster than anything else is going to be our own destruction of civil discourse. That, in the end, will be what takes this country down. You know, it's interesting, if you look back at civilizations, more often than not, the countries, the civilizations that rise to power are taken down from within first. And I think that's exactly what is happening with us. And I have an article that I want to run through with you that kind of shows how civil discourse is being destroyed, and I think journalism is leading the way on it. So we're going to go through that, and I'm going to have some commentary and give you my thoughts. But before we go there, I am Dan. This is the Soule of Wisdom. Thank you for joining me here today. I do appreciate it. If you have not already done so for this channel, please do take a moment to subscribe. If you are on the YouTube side, please hit the notification bell so you get alerted to new videos. If you can leave comments, if you can leave reviews, things like that, depending on what platform you're listening on and what they allow, all those things help us get out in front of more people. The show is growing. It's done incredibly well the last couple of weeks especially. It will continue to grow with your help, so I do appreciate it. Okie dokie. Forgive me if I sound a little bit hoarse today. Got just a little bit of a scratchy throat. But let's move onward anyways. So I came across this article this morning from the LA Times, and it is a little bit on fire on Twitter for reasons that I think will become obvious to you as I go through. But this is from the LA Times, and this piece is by Michael Hiltzik, and he says, mocking anti-vaxxers' COVID deaths is ghoulish, yes, but may be necessary. Okie dokie. So let's just go through, and I'm sure I'll have some comments as we read. Again, excuse my throat today. Okay, among all the ways that COVID-19 affects our lives, the pandemic confronts us in a profound moral dilemma. How should we react to the deaths of the unvaccinated? All right, I'm going to go ahead and call timeout before I even get past the first sentence. Seriously, it's a moral dilemma to figure out how you should react to a death. If that is your thinking, just straight away going in, if your thinking is there's a moral dilemma to how you should react to somebody dying, then you're broken. And you probably shouldn't be writing for the LA Times, because the kind of stuff you're going to put out is going to be crap. Just my thoughts. Okay, let us continue, shall we? All right. On one hand, a hallmark of civilized thought is the sense that every life is precious. On the other, those who have deliberately flouted sober medical advice by refusing a vaccine known to reduce the risk of serious disease from the virus, including the risk to others, and end up in the hospital or the grave, can be viewed as receiving their just deserts. No, it can't. Okay. And furthermore, okay, let's just stop this right now. Quick drink. All right. Let's try to move forward without coughing at you all the time. Again, my apologies today. Anyways, we're talking about the vaccine being known to reduce the risk of serious disease from the virus. There is evidence of that, I'll grant you that. But including the risk to others, I fail to see the evidence of that, especially now with Omicron, as this thing is everywhere, as it is affecting the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, as everybody is spreading it. I don't see how the vaccine stops that. We can make an argument that the vaccine can help you if you get it, but I don't see where we're making an argument that if you don't have the vaccine, you're putting others at risk. Anyways, let's continue. That's even more true of those who not only refuse the vaccine for themselves, but publicly advocated that others do so. It has become common online and in social media for vaccine refusers and anti-vaccine advocates to become the target of ridicule as they come down with COVID-19, and especially if they die from it. Witness the subreddit Herman Cato Ward, which Lily Loofborough of Slate, that's a name, identified in September as a site for heartless and unrepentant schadenfreude. Okay. The site is named for the former Republican candidate for president who became one of the first political notables to succumb to the disease after publicly defying social distancing measures. Like another site, sorryantivaxxer.com, the subreddit hosts snippets and photographs of anti-vaccine advocates often taken at their deathbeds. The issue of how to think about the deaths of the unvaccinated has been thrown into high relief locally by the case of Kelly Ernby, a prominent Orange County Republican and deputy district attorney who advocated against vaccine mandates and died from COVID around New Year's Day unvaccinated. Ernby's death promptly came to symbolize the rift in social fabric caused by the ravages of COVID. Some online commentators greeted her demise with glee, provoking her political friends to push back against what Ben Chapman, a Costa Mesa GOP official, called bigotry and hate directed against her. My colleague Nicholas Goldberg recently lamented eloquently the rift in the social fabric that this species of callous commentary represents. Mocking anti-vaxxers when I get sick has become a bit of a sport, he wrote. All right. I have a slightly different take. To begin with, let's stipulate that not all unvaccinated against COVID are alike. Some remain unvaccinated for legitimate medical reasons. They may be children for whom the vaccine hasn't been officially ruled safe, or people with genuine medical reasons to avoid the vaccine. All right, I'm going to stop right there just for a little commentary on our own. I would agree with that statement that there are legitimate reasons to not be vaccinated. We've talked about this before on this channel. In this house, we have both vaccinated and unvaccinated people, and in each case, it is a medical decision based on their own health situation and their own needs in consultation with a doctor. Okay, we are not anti-vaccine here. We are pro-talk to your doctor for that very reason. We have a couple of people who, if they took the vaccine, it would hurt them, so can't do it. Anyways, we continue. Some may have legitimately faced obstacles in getting to a vaccination site and receiving the full series of shots before becoming exposed to the disease. Others may have refused the vaccine because they've been deceived by the misinformation and disinformation spread by the anti-vaccine crowd, such as the anchors on Fox News. The deaths of all those victims are truly lamentable. Okay? So you say, let's see if you really believe that. Finally, there are those who have voiced public opposition to the vaccines, not all of whom are unvaccinated themselves. Some have couched their opposition in policy terms. Ernby fell into that category. She asserted opposition not only to the vaccines as such, but to vaccination mandates. I don't think the government should be involved in mandating what vaccines people are taking, she said during a live-streamed town hall on November 3rd, 2019, during an unsuccessful campaign for state assembly. If the government is going to mandate vaccines, what else will they mandate? Okay, that seems like a fair question to me. It's honest dialogue. It's talking about, if they do this, where can it lead? I don't see any issues with any of that personally. I really don't. And she did this actually before the pandemic. But let's continue reading. The town hall predated the pandemic. Okay, as I just said. The mandate Ernby opposed when a law tightened the immunization rules for California school children by eliminating exemptions based on personal belief. Well, that should be an exemption, because we are supposed to be a free society where we're free to make choices for ourselves. So if you don't believe that this vaccine or any vaccine would help you, you should have the right to not take it. Just my opinion. That's how freedom works, people. But let's continue. But Ernby made clear that her opposition extended to COVID vaccines. In August, she posted a statement on her Facebook page supporting Huntington Beach firefighters who are opposing a vaccine mandate. The vaccine is not the cure to COVID, and mandates don't work, she wrote. That's actually true as far as when she says the vaccine is not a cure to COVID. The CDC's own website states that. Any official information is now stating that the vaccine is not guaranteed to cure your COVID. They're now selling it as, if you are fully vaccinated and you get COVID, you are less likely to have serious illness or hospitalization. So what she said there was right. As far as the mandates don't work, let's continue. It should be clear that opposing vaccine mandates as a substitute for opposing vaccination itself is a fundamentally incoherent position. It's little more than the garden variety small government Republican ideology. That's what it was in Ernby's hands. I want small government, I want lower taxes, I want to protect our freedoms, she said during her discussion of vaccine mandates at Town Hall. Contrary to Ernby's assertions, however, mandates do work. Requirements that people provide evidence of vaccination before attending public events or entering restaurants or bars have been associated with heightened vaccine rates abroad. Employer mandates in the U.S. have raised vaccination rates at workplaces, as United Airlines has shown. Okay. Well, at that point, your vaccine mandate isn't as much of a vaccine mandate as it is strong-arming. It is coercion. It is forcefully making somebody do something, which I suppose you could argue is the definition of mandate. But it's not freedom. It is not taking the vaccine and selling it as, here's what it will do for you, here's why it's important, here's why we want you to take it. It's do this or we're going to club you over the head. That's what that is. Now, you can say that that's successful, but it's a dubious success at best. And yeah, I don't agree. We continue. As for whether a vaccination mandate is a slippery slope to more government control, as Ernby maintained, government mandates have been with us for untold decades. We require drivers to wear seatbelts, cars to be equipped with airbags, and drivers to observe speed limits and avoid pedestrians. We ban smoking in public places. Okay, so, but the difference, and this happens all the time. Well, you're required to wear a seatbelt, aren't you? Okay, a seatbelt isn't a permanent medical procedure that you're required to undergo. Okay, the vaccine is. Once it is done, it cannot be reversed. If it harms you, there's nothing that you're going to be able to do about it except deal with the harm that it causes. That's where it becomes a different choice. Okay, this isn't, this isn't the same. It's not an equivalency, not even close. This is, again, is a permanent medical procedure. Granted, a minor one, getting a jab in the arm isn't like getting sliced open to have your heart replaced or something like that. Not even close, but it is a medical procedure. Just saying. Okay. Vaccine mandates themselves have been part of the educational system for longer than anyone can remember in every state in the Union. California requires K-12 pupils to have as many as 20 doses of immunizations against polio, measles, mumps, rubella, whooping cough, diphtheria, hepatitis, and chickenpox. And we can debate probably all of those vaccines, though some are probably more highly regarded than others, but that's for another video. Obviously, the mandates exist because these diseases threaten not only the affected persons themselves, but the community, meaning anyone they come in contact with. That's the folly of the anti-mandate argument. It places a perversive conception of individual freedom in opposition to communal interest. Well, again, this argument would apply if there was evidence that the vaccine actually stopped people from acquiring and spreading the virus, but we know just the opposite. The vaccinated are getting it, and they are spreading it. So, again, what's the argument here? You're basing your argument on falsities. You're basing it on this idea that if just everyone was vaccinated, nobody would be spreading it. But we know, especially with Omicron now, that's just not the case. Okay, as it applies to COVID, the argument undermines communal action at precisely the moment when the communal action has emerged as the only obstacle to the spread of a deadly disease. We see the harvest of this fatuous ideology in every COVID statistic. As statistical ace Charles Gaba has shown graphically, vaccination rates in all 3,144 U.S. counties track closely with the votes for Donald Trump in the 2020 election. The higher the Trump vote, the lower the vaccination rate. So what? Now we're going to make this political. I'm going to skip the rest of that paragraph. It has nothing to do with the argument he's trying to make here. Okay, by the way, no one has ever claimed that the COVID vaccines are a cure. Another smidgen of misinformation Ernby purveyed. The COVID vaccines, however, have been spectacularly effective at reducing the severity of infection, a result that appears to hold true for the extremely transmissible Omicron variant. Okay, wasn't there a spot up here? Okay, so yeah, so Ernby said the vaccine is not a cure to COVID, but he kind of calls her out for making that statement. And then down here he says, by the way, no one has ever claimed that the vaccinations are a cure. Well, if you're not claiming that, then don't call somebody else out for claiming that. All right, we continue. What's especially iniquitous about the anti-mandate and the anti-vaccination arguments is the damage that they are doing to America's public health system. Republicans like Ernby used COVID vaccines to turn public health into part of their partisan culture war. Okay, well, when Trump was in office, we had just the opposite. We had the likes of AOC and Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and others saying that they would not trust the vaccine because it was made under Trump. And then all of a sudden, Trump's out of power, and the vaccine is the greatest thing since the hula hoop. Just saying. We can have partisanship both ways. Okay, the consequences are pernicious. They can be measured in overwhelming emergency rooms and intensive care units, hospital staffs burned out or rendered missing in action because they've been infected or been fired. I've done other videos where we've addressed the hospital thing. You can go take a look. There's more to it than meets the eye. Ernby reportedly died at home, but others of her ilk took up hospital beds that may accordingly have been denied to others in great need of non-COVID conditions. In Ernby's home county, Orange, health authorities say that ambulances are waiting longer to offload patients in emergency rooms, and at least 9 hospitals have set up surge tents to increase capacity. Okay, but again, you've fired people in these hospitals. The people themselves are getting COVID, but it's everywhere. So that's causing staffing shortages. It's a staffing issue, not a how many people can the hospital hold issue. But again, I've done other videos on that. Go take a look. That brings us back to the tenor of the online reaction to the deaths of Ernby and her fellow anti-vaxxers. Some of those who object to the tone of the commentary are merely voicing a variation of the civility argument that was commonly raised against critics of the intemperate and inhumane policies of the Trump administration. Again, we go political. I don't get this statement at all. All right, whatever. As I observed then, pleas for civility are a fraud. Their goal is to blunt and enfeeble criticism and distract from its truthfulness. Typically, they're the work of hypocrites. I think he's talking about himself right there. Just saying. Consider the objection raised against Ernby's critics by her friend Ben Chapman. He didn't merely decry the criticism, but attributed it to the woke big government mob, thereby exploiting her death to continue her partisan culture war against a sensible public health policy. So what he's saying there is that the left is allowed to call out Ernby and be critical of her and be vicious and everything else. But if her friend Ben Chapman decries that criticism, then he's exploiting her death. See, this is just arguing from one side, isn't it? So what then is the proper response to the deaths of anti-vaxxers or other determined foes of public health? First, we must acknowledge that the enemies needing to be stamped out are the misinformation, lies, and stupidity being injected against the fight into the fight against COVID. Okay. Second, we must view every one of these deaths as a teachable moment. They demonstrate in the most vivid way imaginable the folly of vaccine refusal and of flouting responsible public health measures. They underscore the dire consequences of turning public health into a partisan football. Well, your side has been doing it as well, sir. Again, the left was completely anti-vax until they weren't. They were completely against this vaccine because Trump was running it until Trump was out of office. And then all of a sudden it's like, yes, we must have this. Okay? You've made it political yourselves. It doesn't need to be. Just be honest with it. But nobody wants to be honest. They want to shove it down everybody's throat, or in this case, in everybody's arm. I don't know. Kelly Ernby's friends and family ask us to remember her for her career as a public servant and devoted spouse and mother, but let's not mince words. Her campaign against public health measures negated whatever good she may have done in her other endeavors. Okay. The policies Ernby advocated may well have contributed to the spread of COVID and to the damaging of the public health infrastructure in our own community. Even before this pandemic, she spoke out for measures that would threaten California's school children with exposure to deadly childhood diseases. There was no scientific or medical grounds for opposition to mandates. It was only political ideology. Or it was just belief. A belief in being able to make your own decisions. If that's a political ideology, if the concept that you should be able to make your own choices, that you should be able to make your own judgments, that you should be able to determine your own health risks, your own health needs, what procedures you want to undergo, if that is suddenly political ideology, we have a problem. Okay? There is such a thing as individual responsibility. That's not politics. That's the way life should be. Anyways, it may not be a little ghoulish to celebrate or exalt in the deaths of the vaccine opponents, and it may not be proper to express sympathy and solitude to those they leave behind. But mockery is not necessarily the wrong reaction to those who publicly mocked anti-vax COVID measures and encouraged others to follow suit before they perished of the disease, the dangers of which they belittled. She didn't say that she was belittling the dangers. She was saying that she didn't feel that people should be forced to get a medical procedure, that they should be forced to get this vaccine if they're not interested in it. That's all she was saying. Good Lord. All right. Nor is it wrong to deny them our sympathy or solitude, or to make sure it's known when their deaths are marked that they had stood fast against measures that might have protected themselves and others from the fate they succumbed to. There may be no other way to make sure that the lessons of these teachable moments are heard. Okay. I think I made it clear through my commentary where I stand on this idiot. Okay? He's making arguments that very often aren't rooted in logic. They aren't rooted in what we know about things. And he's, in my opinion, just trying to justify perhaps his own bad behavior and the behavior of his friends. Because at one point he's saying that the people who are speaking out against Ernby after her death, that they are justified in it, but that the people who are speaking out in support of her are not justified. Okay. But let's get into a broader thing here. This article demonstrates the complete and utter loss of civil discourse, okay? And it starts with the press. The fact that a newspaper as large as the LA Times would allow something like this to be printed, where they are calling out the fact that it's okay to mock and ridicule somebody who died of COVID if they didn't have the vaccine, kind of says where the quality of journalism is, doesn't it? It says it's in the toilet. And oh, by the way, this isn't just limited to the left. The right is starting to creep in with this too, and it's driving me nuts. There is a viral clip going around right now on Twitter of Tucker Carlson comparing the way that Nancy Pelosi looked to the way that Michael Jackson looked. Now, it's funny, but it's stupid, and it doesn't help us. It doesn't make an argument. And I like Tucker. I think that he does some pretty good work. But this bullshit, for lack of a better way to put it, where we're all acting like we should be playing down in the gutter, doesn't help any of us. There has to be some level of civil discourse, and somebody needs to show the way. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the left. And it's looking more and more like the right doesn't want to play anymore either. And this is going to be the downfall of our country. When we see more and more articles like this, when we see somebody who is acting like a complete moron saying that it's okay for you to go ahead and call out the deaths of somebody, okay? Death sucks. Have somebody around you close die and tell me how you feel about it, regardless of the circumstances. It sucks. Do you want somebody making fun of it at that point? No, you don't. Okay, but nobody can see beyond themselves and beyond the moment that they're in. And that not only is true for the left, but it's starting to be true for the right as well. And if we continue to have this breakdown in civil discourse, if we continue to see more and more articles like this, if we continue to see more and more bad behavior where people are acting a fool and saying that what is clearly not okay to do is now okay to do, then that will be the death of all of us. And that will take this country down faster than China will, faster than COVID will, faster than anything will, if we continue to act like complete and utter assholes, we're done. I'm going to go ahead and leave it there for now. Thank you for listening. Please do let me know what you think about what I had to say in the comments. I would appreciate it. And until next time, thank you for watching.